Now, why is it the red bridge circle? At that. The one time we circled the red bridge. That's the spaghetti one. We're taking out the. So on the spaghetti one, I gotta talk to them about the red bridge. Okay. I like the circle.
Yeah, I don't think there's a way to print out a version with those on it, right? Yeah, yeah, because it's like it's one slide and then she just has those shapes coming up within the slide.
Okay. Go to the last one. Now on the last one, it's cropped. This is so big.
Yeah, I don't know why it's like that.
There it is. Well, this says proposed cycle track. Okay. On the next page, the crop, change it all into there. Yeah. Go back. Back one. Okay. Okay, go ahead. Okay. Okay. And do we have any more animation in my presentation other than that slide?
No, that, yeah, that was good.
Okay. All right. Keep going to make sure there's no more animation. All right. The Gus was told here to be here by 5:30.
That's a part of all those emails. He knows.
No, he goes like a left. No.
Testing 1, 2, testing.
I can hear you, Michael. Can you hear me?
How does Jeff get on already?
Wanted to be the test for y'all before things get
Hey.
underway.
Who else is on the Zoom link now?
I think it's just me.
How do all the people come into the public meeting?
They should be coming in through this Zoom link.
Oh, hold on, Jeff.
Oh, apologize.
So it automatically populates at 6. Yeah.
So they go to the YouTube website.
Public input. Yeah, this website.
What are we sending to public input? How does public input?
So from the back inside of it, take the public input, right? And the public input will look like.
They're getting a Zoom. They're getting a Zoom. Yeah, the Zoom is going to the public input.
Yeah, that's the only people that have it.
So our regular Zoom that we use all the time. Sending that.
Yeah, it's going over there.
There we go.
Yeah, for us, we send it to the webpage.
Because we needed the possibility that people call in, like.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Same technology, different website. And Jeff was too important to go.
He's way too important.
Yeah, he was special, he got probably. Basically.
So they'll make sure. Now, who's manning the door?
So I was there, but.
People start going home at 6 o'clock, well, physically, o'clock.
Oh, okay, got it, all right.
Now, it doesn't have to be you, usually Mark Stevens or someone. That's one of those. I mean, you should have done it before. You know what I'm saying? Where's Rebecca still here? Are you here for the whole event? Yes, sir. Okay. Well, once we get started, you could start to circulate over there every 20 minutes.
At the front?
Yeah.
Huh?
Any gust sightings? I was doing that.
Yeah.
No more changes or do with the presentation?
Some more check.
Okay, because I need to. Because I need to do that. There.
Can either text me or come downstairs. They have to- That's what Joe. Okay, try to find out for me. Okay, if you can, I would get on the public meeting from City Hall, we'll introduce you from City Hall, somehow we'll cover the presentation. And if we have questions, maybe you can weigh in and answer. Is there a way you can answer the questions or no? Yeah. No. Yeah, I think we'll be done by 7. Well, are you gonna come here? I don't see any way you can weigh in and answer questions, given the format of how the public is coming in 9 minutes. You can't say, okay, Josh, can you answer that question? It's not like a regular Zoom. So we'll try to answer the questions, okay? All right. Okay, so. How?
You might need Chris in with it right now.
They poured over his head, right?
Just Chris.
It's ready. You.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Good evening and welcome to everyone who's here this evening. My name is Taylor Benjamin. I'm a communication specialist here at NCT COG, and thank you for spending a little time with us to talk about the Oak Farms Transportation Corridor Study. Today, we're conducting a virtual public meeting, meaning that we are live on the web and via the phones. For this meeting, we'll first hear from today's presenters, and then we'll open the floor to questions and comments. We'll hear live phone comments first, followed by comments that have been submitted through the meeting webpage. Now I'm going to quickly review the instructions for providing comments by phone. Please note that the only way to provide an oral comment during the meeting is to call in over the phone. For participation by phone, dial 855-925-2801. You'll hear a prompt, enter a meeting code, and you'll enter in 11712. You'll then be able to listen to the meeting audio. You may leave a voicemail with your comment by pressing star, then the number 2. If you would like to request to ask a question or provide a comment live during the meeting, you're going to press star, then the number 3. You'll be placed in a speaker queue, but continue to hear the meeting audio until it is your turn to speak. Written comments may be submitted in the comment box at the bottom of the meeting webpage at publicinput.com/oakfarms. Don't worry if you didn't get all of those instructions. I'm going to review them again after our presentation. Today, we'll be hearing from Michael Morris, who's the Director of Transportation here at the North Central Texas Council of Governments. And we'll also be hearing from Matt Craig, who works at HAF. Please note that all printed copies of the meetings can be requested. And again, we're going to hold all questions and comments until after our presentation. Now I'm going to hand over the meeting to Mr. Morris.
Thank you very much, Taylor. I appreciate it, and I appreciate all of you who took time to be with us this evening. Matt and I and Gus Carney were at your last public meeting, and we laid out a path forward. We are going to cover the same general areas that the Council of Governments was focused on the regional elements. We split the project up, and the City of Dallas was focused on the more local elements. Matt Craig is going to go and give Gus's presentation today, and then we'll respond to all comments as long as Taylor permits us to be here with regard to the path forward. So if you go to the next slide, I thought we had a terrific turnout on October 29th. We laid out the process. We sort of encouraged a certain direction with regard to Greenbrier because none of us want to overload the traffic on the western side of the corridor. We got a lot of support from the public with regard to that particular option. We think we got somewhat of an antiquated use of the viaducts, so we are reaffirming that Houston Street should not have cars on it, and Jefferson would be two-directional. So that recommendation is coming forward as previously proposed. Citizens were concerned about the magnitude of development that could occur in the Oak Farms site. So we registered it then and we registered again. The City of Dallas will be managing the path forward with regard to that particular development. And then we encouraged any particular option or route to be submitted to us. If you scan that code, that'll give you the location of the materials at the previous public meeting. If not, if you wish not to do all that, this presentation will be made available to you by Taylor, And then you can get that detailed information to follow all the way back to the previous public meeting. As I said before, on the next slide, the study purpose worked out very well where we kept the regional elements and we gave to the city the streetcar and the local street elements. That could be somewhat of a cumbersome process, but in this particular case, it wasn't at all. Halfin Associates happened to win both of the procurement procedures, so we had an integrated team from the consultant. We have a great relationship with Gus, so I think it's been a terrific process where the city focuses on the city streets. Matt will talk about that. We want the city to take the lead in the streetcar, so you'll see a final recommendation there. We wanted a computer simulate all the new traffic patterns on the change in the viaducts. We wanted to create a new street grid in Oak Farms that minimized impact to Greenbrier. You'll see us do a little more conceptual engineering on Jefferson interface with Jefferson Boulevard to make sure we right-size that particular project. You'll see the recommendation in a moment. And then we had all the regional connections of bicycle and pedestrian to the regional VeloWeb because of the proximity to Trinity River. So here is all the corridors that are being looked at. A general rule is we were in the red area on this particular map. City of Dallas was in the blue area. You see the overlap that occurs once you leave the viaducts. Great teamwork, great work by HAF with regard to that process. So this is the quote, the red and blue areas, the Oak Farms study, and our recommendations are forthcoming. I think it's been a terrific process and I think a great path forward for this particular area of the region. I remind everyone we now go to the north side of the river in the Cedars area as our next step. But we needed to know how best the southern sector would feed and direct the northern Cedars area. So with this particular set of recommendations, the city can move out and we can move out and TxDOT can move out if these recommendations are accepted. And then we move across the river to the Cedar side and talk about the new Interstate 30 freeway construction, the construction of the convention center, and the reestablishment of the gridded system to that part of the community. So let's turn it over to Matt. He'll take a few minutes and walk through the City of Dallas side. I'll come back and reaffirm the regional elements that we talked about with a little more detail, and then we'll open it up. Taylor will open it up to any questions people have.
Thank you, Michael. For the City of Dallas study, 3 tasks were accomplished. The first included a multimodal corridor analysis, where the most appropriate corridor was identified for further analysis. The second task included a corridor prioritization analysis with a similar goal of identifying a corridor for context-sensitive design. And the third task included analyzing and finding the most appropriate route for a Dallas streetcar extension from the current terminus at the Bishop Art Station to a new terminus at the new Southern Gateway Deck Park. Next slide. The purpose of the multimodal prioritization was to identify how the streets in the study area should be planned and designed for safe and efficient travel for all modes using complete streets or context-sensitive design principles. In a context-sensitive design, it supports safe, convenient, and affordable transportation networks for people of all ages and abilities that balance the competition between different travel modes, be it transit, walking, biking, automobiles, freight, all within the roadway. Following this study, the results of the multimodal prioritization will be used for future planning efforts to create a complete and connected street network for each mode. For example, identifying specific corridors as priority corridors for bicycles means that those streets will be reviewed in a later study to identify appropriate bicycle facilities to support safe and efficient travel for bicyclists. This study informed the selection and design improvements on Oakenwald Street, which include installation of sidewalks between North Beckley Avenue and Plowman Avenue, to provide safe pedestrian connections. On the next slide, the multimodal prioritization looked at 5 roadway users, be it transit, pedestrian, bicycle, vehicle drivers, and freight. The transit network includes streets that service high-frequency transit. The walking network includes streets in high-population areas adjacent to active uses. The bike network includes streets identified in the City of Dallas Bike Plan as being proposed for bicycle facilities. The auto network includes streets that are intended to carry high traffic volumes. And the freight network includes streets that are intended to allow large freight vehicle travel to make regional trips. Things like cargo vans or Amazon or UPS delivery vans would not be considered part of the freight network. Next slide. The corridors studied typically and do serve many travel modes. These modes were evaluated in a layered network, so each street has identified modes that should be served, and a tiering system identifies the primary, secondary, and tertiary modes that should be prioritized within the roadway. Each column in the table represents one layer of the multimodal transportation network for the study area. These results are not an indication of how the streets operate and serve these modes today, but how they should be planned and designed through future efforts. For example, Zang Boulevard has been identified to serve transit, walk, auto, and freight modes, and the priority mode for Zang to serve is transit. Future improvements along Zang Boulevard will be planned to provide safe transit stops for boarding and alighting, traffic signal timings that support efficient movement for the streetcar, and improvements to crossing locations for pedestrians to access transit. This tiering system was identified based on the street types and land use context. The study areas are residential and mixed use and close to downtown, and these streets are arterials and collectors that should serve a high throughput of roadway users. For these reasons, transit is primary mode as it has the capacity to serve the greatest number of trips. Additionally, in these dense areas, streets should protect and prioritize vulnerable road users. The result of these priorities is that we have a network of north-south and east-west running streets that serve each mode for safe and convenient travel. On the next slide, here we'll discuss the corridor prioritization analysis. The purpose of this analysis was to guide future planning efforts and propose transportation improvements and identify a priority corridor of the local street network within the City of Dallas study area. Its methodology included, during the initial analysis conducted in December 2024, over 35 miles of roadway within the study area were evaluated. 15 corridors were identified within this study areas as potential corridors with the greatest need. Then 3 corridors were removed from further analysis because the corridors were either already included in the City of Dallas 2017 bond program or were not included in the City of Dallas needs inventory. A desktop analysis was then conducted for the remaining 12 corridors using the metrics and scored on a scale of 1 to 5 using various metrics where 1 indicates a low improvement need and 5 indicates a high improvement need. These metrics include proximity to community features, sidewalk inventory, bicycle inventory, high injury network, pavement condition, and minority population greater than 50%. Based on the analysis of the 12 corridors and discussions with the City of Dallas, the top 6 corridors identified for needed improvements included East Oakenwald Street, Denver Street, Story Street, Lake Cliff Drive, Moore Street, and Lancaster Avenue. Next slide. Following the corridor prioritization analysis in coordination with the City of Dallas, it was determined that the East Oakenwald Street is the highest priority corridor in the study area with a score of 29. Shown in the table are scores of the top 6 corridors with a higher score indicating higher improvement needs. The map on the right focuses on the data used to evaluate the condition of East Oakenwald Street. On the next slide then is the existing proposed typical section for East Oakenwald Street as shown above or on the slide. Improvements to Oakenwald include widening the roadway from 2 10-foot lanes to 2 18-foot lanes, adding 6-foot sidewalks with 1-foot buffers, and introducing a 4-way stop sign controlled intersections with pedestrian crosswalks. Next slide goes into the Dallas streetcar extension. And here's we discussed the Dallas streetcar extension analysis. The purpose of this analysis is to extend the existing streetcar line to the new Gateway Park spanning over Interstate 35, enhancing access to the Dallas Zoo and improving connectivity to downtown Oak Cliff mixed-use district. This extension will support the area's retail, employment, and residential sectors, fostering a more integrated and accessible community. Improved access to the Dallas Zoo and Gateway Park will make these attractions more reachable for both local residents and tourists. This project is anticipated to boost local businesses in the Oak Cliff area, including retail, restaurants, and other services, due to increased foot traffic without the need to provide additional parking spaces. Enhanced connectivity will better integrate residential, employment, and retail areas, making it more convenient for residents to commute and access amenities. And next slide. Through the early analysis, 2 major corridors emerged as possibilities to connect Bishop Arts to the new Depp Park, as shown here in the dark gray lines. The objective was to connect the circle with the star. The Davis Street corridor and the Jefferson Boulevard corridors both satisfied the need to make the connection. The Davis Street corridor primarily follows Davis Street east from the Bishop Arts Station and then turns southward on either Lancaster or Ewing Avenue. This corridor is primarily in residential and institutional areas and does not access any major retail areas. The Jefferson Boulevard corridor, though, follows Zang Boulevard southward from the Bishop Arts Station to Jefferson Boulevard, and then uses Marsalis, Ewing, or Lancaster Avenue to reach the Depp Park. This corridor provides access to the quote-unquote downtown Oak Cliff retail area along Jefferson Boulevard. Next slide. In order to select an alternative, both the Davis and Jefferson corridors were further divided into several alternatives. These alternatives were measured against project objectives and criteria, such as key destinations and economic development, direct impacts, and engineering feasibility, to determine the highest performing routes using a 3-point scale system. These alternatives were then presented to the public and stakeholders for feedback, discussion, and refinement to determine a final recommended route. The recommended alignment, also known as J4, will extend the existing streetcar from Bishop Arts to the future Southern Gateway Park, primarily using East Jefferson Boulevard corridor. Key elements of the recommended Jefferson Boulevard alignment displayed on the map include access to East Jefferson Boulevard Commercial District, the schools, and jobs. Minor right-of-way impacts were needed, and cost effectiveness. With that, that concludes the City of Dallas presentation, and I will turn it back over to Michael to talk on the COG regional study.
Matt, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And thank you for highlighting the work you did with the City of Dallas on their particular section. I would like to get into reminding everybody, what is it that we did and how did we go about doing that? And that information is represented on this slide. So we wanted to rethink the best use of the Houston and Jefferson Boulevard viaducts. As I said before, reconnect active transportation, both from the local portion and the regional portion as part of the regional system. We wanted to be very sensitive to the Greenbrier traffic impacts on the western edge of the study area. So we went through close to a dozen east-west connection evaluations. The idea originally was to extend Eads Avenue to the eastern bottom side of the corridor. That recommendation is not moving forward. That connection to the east will only be by bicycle pedestrian, not by roadway. So I'm not bearing the lead there for you. And then we had to do some level of conceptual engineering that we used half to do on Jefferson Boulevard to transition from the structure to the boulevard end of the corridor. Because remember, we're proposing to put 2 directional traffic on Jefferson and wanted to make sure we had a facility that created context-sensitive design to the neighborhood level bicycle pedestrian activities on the Jefferson Boulevard side. How did we go about doing our work? We took the 44 public comments from the first public meeting. We went through detailed traffic forecasts through several computer simulations. And then we had half independently look at the traffic operations elements of the recommendation. So we had the appropriate sensitivity at the intersections with regard to the pedestrian and bicycle interface. So your Houston and Jefferson viaducts are a significant value to the region and to the Oak Cliff and downtown section. I'm not sure they're best being used since they're a concept going back decades and decades. You got some obsolete, what I would call spaghetti. Remember, you now have a major horseshoe interchange with 30 and 35. You know, the previous generation higher speed thoroughfare street no longer is necessary and should be modernized is the recommendation. TxDOT had won a $30 million bridge program to give some love to the Houston Street Viaduct. So Halfin Associates prepared lots of data on the bridge conditions to help TxDOT. So we don't make improvements or do something that then we turn around and do something different as a result of the study. So a lot of hand-holding was done between TxDOT's program and HAF's bridge evaluation work. And there's a very clean baton pass that's occurring as a result of our study. And remember, once we're completed here, we're going to the north side to interface these same recommendations as it approaches the Cedars and Convention Center areas. So let's look at what exists. So you're probably all familiar with your Houston Street Viaduct, 14-foot pedestrian streetcar, 2 12-foot lanes coming at you heading south towards Oak Cliff, and a 4-foot sidewalk. I must admit, if you don't know where you are and you pass the Eddie Bernice Johnson Union Station and you're drifting a little too far out of downtown, you end up going to Oak Cliff when you had no intention to do so. So I've always thought this to be an awkward movement. And then on the Jefferson Boulevard side, 4-foot sidewalk, 12-foot bike, 3 12-foot lanes, a 4-foot sidewalk. That's your current conditions. We're reaffirming the recommendation from last meeting. We turned one Houston Street Viaduct into a non-automobile structure. We have room for a second streetcar line, depending on what the city of Dallas wishes to do. We think we have plenty of capacity in the meantime with the 2-directional facility. And then go ahead and turn Jefferson Boulevard into a 2-directional 4-lane thoroughfare street with a pedestrian facility on each side, similar to the recommendations that you saw last time. So we think we need to remove some of that spaghetti, or in this case, legs going over to Zhang and Marsalis. I'll have a better representation of that for you in a moment. I think there's lots of benefits of reducing traffic from the Houston Street Viaduct, similar to the Kirk Bridge, having a non-vehicular bridge focused on moving a whole host of pedestrian, bicycle, ped, new streetcar extension, maybe a new City of Dallas streetcar system, I think is a very positive step for the community. And then we're still advancing our transit and active transportation. In this case, is bicycle pedestrian, maintaining and expanding the regional reach of the bicycle pedestrian facilities we already have. We had 6 alternatives in October. As I said, we probably looked at close to a dozen after we received the comments. We maintain significant sensitivity to Greenbrier, and the east connection will be by pedestrian and not by roadway vehicle. So the hatched-in purple area is the reach of the roadway section on the Jefferson Viaduct. That would come down. You wouldn't need that anymore. That's the remnants of the junior freeway I described previously. On the section that will be pedestrian, you can see us making the connections of the bicycle pedestrian to that particular facility, on what side of the road it'll be on, and so on and so forth. So some sensitivity has been done. Your Marsalis goes into the Greenbrier connection on the west side of Zhang. And notice how recessed the east-west First Street is to Greenbrier, minimizing the impact across that particular section. On this map, it's in the red color as part of that particular process. You see a red structure on Jefferson. That's the sections of the Jefferson Bridge we have to redo to get Jefferson to grade and to transition the appropriate width of the roadway to handle the recommendations that we have for Jefferson. And Jefferson Boulevard then becomes the economic center of the community heading to and from downtown. So let's go through that in a little slower highlighted area so you can pick up the sensitivity that I just highlighted. You're getting rid of a lot of previous junior freeway spaghetti that is no longer needed, in our opinion, similar to what we recommended previously. You have a new connection that minimizes First Street's connection to Greenbrier with an offset intersection, making that connection via Marsalis. We think that is a great way, and the computer simulation support that that's a way to minimize the impact of traffic on Greenbrier. If we go to the next place, you see the regional connections interfacing with the City of Dallas Thoroughfare Street connections with regard to that gridded system. And you see the Jefferson Boulevard as the Thoroughfare Street workhorse, no longer on both of the viaducts as part of that particular recommendation. If you go to this particular slide, you see that Eads is not going through on the roadway side, but proposed shared use path. You see other proposed shared use paths as part of the regional connection, and the proposed cycling track going on to the Houston Street Viaduct and its connection and to the green network of and yellow connections that you see of the integration of that neighborhood bicycle pedestrian and pedestrian connections to get to that particular facility. Here is your more close-up look of the proposed bike lanes. You can see the proposed bike lanes in yellow and pedestrian elements in green, and the elimination of that spaghetti connecting to Marsalis as part of that initiative. If you go to the next slide, one of the items that came up on the developer side, hey, what are you doing that has impact on potential land that is owned? I think we didn't have this be the major driver of the gridded system, but it appears to us that the parcel sizes and the parcel ownerships are matching very well to the actual Thoroughfare Street recommendations. That'll be up to the developers to weigh in on that particular set of comments. We then did a significant amount of conceptual engineering on Jefferson Boulevard. So you have Jefferson Boulevard, y- North Ewing to 7th Street, the typical section, and then the proposed section, you can see the interface of the bicycle pedestrian elements as part of that particular cross-section. You see not a significant impact on right-of-way as part of that particular approach, but those 4 or 5 sections of bridge on Jefferson Boulevard as it crosses over the levee on the south side, that is the transition to be able to meet the number of lanes necessary to support a 4-lane thoroughfare street as part of the recommendations. We have all this in a very detailed report, thanks to Half and Associates. That information is available to you. Lots of versions of this have been out for some time. Lots of data, traffic forecast, operational improvements as part of that particular process. That information is all available along with the presentation that'll be sent to everyone following this public meeting. If you go to the next page, the detailed bridge assessments, literally section by section, they are being transmitted over to TxDOT. Those bridges have $30 million in funds to move forward to make improvements. TxDOT will take the very advanced bridge evaluation that HAF has already done on the 2 viaducts. We'll start slotting what those improvements are, or TxDOT will. And then we will work on the north side to interface how best to move forward on the recommendations that we have in the south side, assuming the south side recommendations continue to have support from the public as we move forward. So with that, I think I will stop my part of the presentation. Matt, thanks again for your hard work as the engineering firm for both the regional and the local part, and I appreciate your assistance today. And Madam Chair, I turn it back over to you, Taylor, to see what the interest of the public is in moving forward. Thank you.
As promised, we'll move to the public comment section of our meeting. So we want to thank you to everyone for holding your questions until the end of our presentation. Before we begin, let me review the ways to provide your input or ask questions. Written comments may be submitted directly through the meeting webpage at publicinput.com/Oak Farms. You can just type in your comment in the box at the bottom of the page, or you can email written comments to oakfarms@publicinput.com. And we are happy to provide anybody hard copies of today's presentation if you would like. We'll now have an opportunity for live comments from our call-in number. Again, to provide a comment or ask a question by phone, dial 855-925-2801. You'll hear a prompt to enter a meeting code. Enter 11712. To request to speak, press *3, and you'll be placed in a speaker queue, but continue to hear the meeting audio until it's your turn to speak. Note that if you've been listening to the meeting on your computer, you'll need to mute your computer speakers to avoid audio issues. Then at the start of your speaking time, please state your name as well as your city, organization, or affiliation. And if you don't want to speak live, you're more than welcome to leave a voicemail for us, and you can do that by pressing *, then the number 2, and we will get back to you. So the phone line is now open for public comments or questions. Have someone coming, I think. Connected. Hello, can you hear us? We should be able to hear her. Is someone talking? Oh. Okay, let's see why. Go ahead. Should be able to hear.
So those of you who are trying to call in, we're checking some particular item here, so patience. Would appreciate it. Thank you.
Not sure why we can't even see.
Getting talk.
It's an audio issue.
So we know there's some folks in the queue. We're trying to fix something, so we're going to move towards, I guess, written comments, Taylor?
Yes, let's go ahead and move towards the written comments. So we've got quite a few comments here. So Candace Rubin said, are there better maps with streets that aren't cartoon-like? I own about 30 tracks within the highlighted area, but I can't really tell. So I take it she wants some new maps.
We'll be happy to provide more detailed maps.
Michael.
We'll provide the maps on aerial photographs.
Michael Mendoza, he says, for the city, has the city of Dallas established a sustainable funding model for the operation and maintenance of the streetcar system?
Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
Michael Mendoza said, for the city of Dallas, has the city established a sustainable funding model for the operation and maintenance of the streetcar system?
I'm pretty sure the city of Dallas is still working on what the extent of that system will be. What is the funding source, both for capital and operations? So I think the answer is no, not at this particular point, but there are conversations going on with regard to that particular effort. So that work is not complete at this time.
Beverly Mendoza said the parts of East Colorado Boulevard in between Lancaster and Zang is highly pedestrian, especially in between Founders and Lake Cliff parks. Dangerous sidewalks exist there. Val Haskell said, why would we focus on Oakenwald, which has so many vacant lots? And I think that would be for the city of Dallas portion.
Matt, any insight on that particular question, or do we reserve that for Gus? Can you?
Yes, sir. For that, for Colorado itself on the actual sidewalk condition, that would be future work for the city of Dallas. And,
So the
but not
recommend,
specifically in this.
yeah, so the question is, the commenter isn't necessarily sold on the recommendation coming from the city. So we will definitely make that recommendation or question known to the city for the city to respond to the recommendation on the street that they did select. So I think it's a very fair question.
Michael Mendoza said for NCT COG, if the Houston Viaduct is converted for pedestrian access and the Jefferson Viaduct is adapted for two-way traffic, will this create an opportunity for the city of Dallas to repurpose the triangular parcel of land for park use or commercial development? If so, how many acres are estimated for these new uses?
I think it's a very good question. The questioner is right. It would be up to the city of Dallas. We will go estimate the acreage with regard to it. I believe that's part of the value in the spaghetti removal that you then get back. You're in the city of Dallas, so the city of Dallas would be determining what the appropriate use would be. So we will ask that question of the city with regard to its opportunity to work with the neighborhoods to determine the reuse of those particular elements.
Couple questions for the city of Dallas. Michael Mendoza said for the city of Dallas, will Beckley Avenue from Zang to 8th Davis remain included in the city's thoroughfare plan? Well,
We will ask that of the city, what their position will be on that.
Beverly Mendoza asked, if we try to push traffic onto Jefferson and off to North Marsalis, would a streetcar impact this effort negatively? Perhaps Davis/Lancaster is the better route.
We'll send that comment to the city as they look at the trade-offs of economic development opportunities related to a streetcar. Remember, streetcar is an economic development tool. And the trade-offs that you have when building a streetcar with regard to the impact of current traffic and the ability of that streetcar to produce economic development. So we will pass that comment on to the city.
Val Haskell said, what is the estimated cost for the Houston Bridge reconfiguration for North Central Texas Council of Governments?
We don't have a cost estimate yet. We will get one from TxDOT. We are requesting TxDOT to determine where they wish to best use their $30 million worth of funding. We hope it is placed on the rehabilitation of the current structure, and they don't use any of the money on the section that needs to be replaced. With consensus from the community that they like this concept of turning Jefferson into a two-way facility, we would then move on to the engineering of that particular bridge and cost that out and work with the Regional Transportation Council and the city of Dallas on funding to get that implemented. So we haven't gone through the detailed engineering cost estimates until we're assured the public is interested in turning Jefferson into a two-directional facility.
We have a person in the queue.
But I remind the person, remember, the only rebuilding of the structure is those last 700 feet? 700 feet of the Jefferson Viaduct as it clears the southern levee. So it's a 700-foot section. But if there is consensus coming out of this particular study, we would move into the engineering of that structure.
We're going to go ahead and give the call-in option a try again. So we have a caller waiting in the queue. Unfortunately, we're having some difficulties with our phone bridge connection. We're not having audio from our callers, but we have received a couple of voicemails and we will review them as a team. Want to go ahead and thank everyone for the meeting. And
Taylor, before everyone leaves, do you know how many people are in the queue by any chance?
we have received 4 calls so far.
So there are 4 people. So the 4 of you and anyone else, I would ask you to use the voicemail or to type in the comments. Taylor, I'm going to ask you to give them your email address so you could have them email you as well any concerns or thoughts that they have. Or if there's some place they can type in their answer after this, type in their question or concern after this public meeting where this site stays live. I just want to make sure people have taken the time to be with us, that they're able to somehow communicate to us their concern or question that they have.
Sure. You guys, anyone who's here on the meeting can email public input, oakfarms@publicinput.com, and we'll be able to receive all of the questions. And we'll also be able to take your questions that you have for the city of Dallas that we are unable to answer right now for them today. We will take them back and get you all answers.
Yeah, we have a catalog of those questions. Those will be easy to get answers for. I want to make sure that if there's questions or concerns, you register that question or concern or compliment, and we will respond accordingly when we get those that particular set of questions or comments.
We would like to thank everyone who's here and for coming to attend this meeting. We're going to go ahead and conclude the meeting, and any questions that we've received, we will answer them. Thank you. That's what I was.